Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 8. I've got Corey Reyment with me today, serial entrepreneur, real estate investor. He's going to tell us the worst advice he's ever heard and how his 7th grade teacher changed the course of his life forever. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, I've got Corey Reyment with me here. We are at Copper State Brewing. It's a great place. We're both regulars.
Absolutely.
They know us by name.
Yes.
Right, they know our drinks, which is great. So what are you drinking?
I have a French vanilla latte, I believe, with almond milk, sugar-free, which I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not.
Sugar-free. Keeps the beer thick.
Yeah, that's right. The beard I don't have, right?
Yeah, right. And I've been rolling on a Breve latte kick. I'm usually just like a black coffee guy, Texas tea, give it to me straight. Yeah. Man milk, black gold, whatever you want to call it. But the Breve latte is all about the fat, which is great.
So what's a Breve latte? Taking me the rundown on that.
It's half and half.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just creamier.
Oh, nice.
Which is great, yeah.
Nice. A little smooth.
Fills the belly. Keeps the beard thick.
There you go.
So, Corey, not the first time we've hung out, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We got to know each other through the real estate world, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
You're a veteran. I'm a rookie.
Yeah.
But you haven't only built a great business in the real estate side of things. You've also had experience in the fitness side of things.
Right.
You've kind of had that entrepreneurial drive your whole life. So,
yeah.
But before we get into that side of things, our listeners have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you forward this to a friend, right?
Yeah.
So can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you hail from, family life, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Tell us who Corey is.
Yes. So I grew up in the Green Bay area, just outside a little farm town, about 3,000 people, just northwest called Pulaski.
Yeah.
So if you're driving out to Minneapolis from Green Bay, you'll blink and miss it. So grew up there, and but parents were, middle class. Growing up, we were, I would say, low middle class. We lived in a trailer house out on a couple acres just outside of Pulaski, so we had a little bit of land and stuff like that, but it was a good upbringing. My parents were always loving and caring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They just didn't have really maybe like the big goals and dreams that I now have, but they did a great job raising us. Yeah, did a great job raising us. Grew up there, played sports, was in football, track, lifted weights, did all that fun stuff, really competitive growing up.
Yeah.
And then after high school, went to Eau Claire for college and got a degree in exercise fitness or something. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
Exercise management, so I had a little business and all that good stuff. Played a little bit of football my senior year. I was going to have FOMO, so I'm like, I gotta just go out for the team. And it was fun. It was a good experience.
What's FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Little FOMO there. You just learned something
There
new.
you go. Yeah, every day, baby.
Yeah. And then after college, got what I thought was going to be my dream job, strength and conditioning coach with the Wisconsin Badger football team.
Yeah.
I was an intern, so I was not paid. But I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go to the Packers, and it's going to be great. And was there for like 2 months, and I'm like, this is terrible. I'm out, man. I'm moving back home. So
what did you like about it?
It was. I view myself as like somebody. I don't care if you're 60 or you're 15.
Yeah.
Like I think there's no hierarchy of people. I don't buy into this whole supremacy because you've got tenure type of mindset.
Sure.
And in that arena, that's what it was like. Well, I've been here for 15 years, so you're my what do they call that word? Basically, you're inferior to me.
I think of a few words that might go.
Yeah. My gosh, I'm trying to think of what the heck that word is. But anyway, I was like, I'm your what? Subordinate.
Yeah.
They used the word subordinate on me, and I'm like, whoa.
I'm out.
I'm like, bro, no, that's not how this works. And I was fresh out of college. I was like, we did some cutting edge research when I was in college in that arena that I'm like, there could be some cool stuff, and they were just old school. Like, no, we won some Rose Bowls in the 90s, so we know what we're doing. And I'm like, whoa, all right, this is not a good environment for me.
Yeah.
I exited that, and I knew that just wasn't going to be a good cultural fit for me to be there long term.
That can be tough.
Yeah.
I experienced that. I was a firefighter for the city of Minneapolis.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it's a similar thing. It's it's union, but it's all about hierarchy and that kind of stuff. You come in and have to
earn your stripes,
all that kind of stuff. And I get it to some extent.
Right.
But I can see how a guy with a lot of aspirations, ambitions, how that can just really be squashing in a sense. Might not be the right fit for everybody.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, for me it was like, okay, there's this, like, I see the sky's the limit type of thing.
Yeah.
And when I was in there, I felt like I was in the basement and there was concrete ceiling above me, and I wasn't going to be able to get up there until somebody was willing to come down and get me and walk me up the stairs to the next level, and then I'd have to do it again. And I'm like, that's not for me. So so anyway, I moved back home and I sold fitness equipment. I'm like, well, I got this degree in exercise, I should probably use it.
Yeah.
But I love sales, so I'm like, I could sell fitness equipment. This would be great. And that was in 2008 when the economy tanked, and so nobody was buying commercial fitness equipment at the time. So I basically drove around, northern Wisconsin and upper Michigan for a year, made a couple bucks and not much, and I was like, I got to make more money than this. This is terrible.
And I for dollars, right?
Yeah. And I hate, honestly, at first I was like, traveling for work, that's what I want to do. Be some corporate exec, travel all over the country, stay in these nice hotels, all this stuff, and
write it all off.
Then I got the company mileage and the meal thing, and then I'd be gone and I'd be staying in a hotel, and I'm like, this kind of stinks after a while.
Yeah.
It got old pretty quick. So anyway, I ended up finding a job back here doing inside sales for a company called Imperial Supply, selling like nuts and bolts.
Oh, yeah.
And,
cool.
Yeah, using my fitness degree, to its max capacity. But in there, I actually got a really great opportunity. A buddy of mine, his dad's friend, we were out on New Year's one night, and we were having a couple of cocktails and talking, and he was going through a divorce, and he said, man, I really need to get back into shape and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I have a degree in this, so like, let me talk to him about personal training.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, well, I have personal training, and I told him about being at the Wisconsin Badgers, and all of a sudden, I was the cat's meow.
We even won a few Rose Bowls.
Yeah, we even won a couple Rose Bowls back in the '90s, right? So when I was a baby, but so he's like, well, can you train me? And I'm like, I had never trained anybody for money before, so I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I just made it up on the spot, and I think I told him I was like charging like $75 an hour or something. I was like, he's like, oh man, So anyway, we negotiated and it ended up working out. And then he owned a business in town, and he had the kind of a gym set up in the back garage of this office building.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want you to train my employees. After he got some great results in like 12 weeks. And
cool.
So then I'm like, yeah, great, I'll do it, because I wasn't making money selling the fitness equipment. This is actually still while I was doing the fitness equipment stuff.
Yeah.
So then I started training his employees 4 nights a week, and then that just continued on, and he let me basically have the space for free as long as I would train him a couple days a month, and I did that for like 4 or 5 years out of that place. Awesome. So it worked out great. We can talk about maybe some of the failures later on in that business, but yeah, and then I got fired from that job, the Imperial Supplies job.
Okay.
And we were about to buy a house, and probably 3 weeks before we were set to close, they called to do the employment verification, and of course I don't work there anymore, and so we couldn't get the house. And so I was like really bummed out about it, but God works in amazing ways, and everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So I tried to just run the gym myself like full time after I got fired, and we were doing some network marketing at the time too. And then
who are you guys in with network marketing?
We were with Isogenics nutrition products.
Yeah.
We still use the products and stuff. We just don't really do anything.
Not really involved on the network side.
Not on the business side. And then I found my wife was a nurse with the Red Cross for a little while, and she had to travel a lot, and she'd be gone on overnights. And we had my daughter, who's now 7, and she was just 6 months old at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're making like $40,000 a year, traveling all over the place, being gone. Why don't I just go get a sales job, and you can just stay home with her? I suck at being a stay-at-home dad. You're way better at it, right? So I went and found a job. My brother worked for a company called NCSA, selling like marketing packages to high school athletes.
Okay.
So it kind of worked. I had the background, at least with the Badgers, a little bit, and saw kind of some of their stories and things like that, so I could relate to the kids a little bit about that. And my background, wanting to play college football and going out for the opportunity and things, so I could share some of that with the kids. And did that for like 4 years, and it was really good. And then in there, about 2 years in, is when we found real estate and really started to dig our heels in on that as our path to freedom, so to speak. So
realize there was other ways to buy a home.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is awesome. So then, talk to us a little bit about the real estate side of things. So You caught a vision, caught a glance.
Yep.
What happened?
Yeah, so I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a life-changing book if nobody's read that book yet. Especially if they want to have some alternative ways to look at work or freedom or things like that. Life in general, and just how you view things. And so I had Carrie read it, my wife, and she caught the vision with me. And so then it was like, boom, we're on fire now.
Power, baby.
Yeah, so we kind of just started learning everything we could possibly learn, and started trying to get hooked up with a real estate agent. And we thought that's what you had to do, was like you get a real estate agent, then they set up showings, and then you go through these houses with your agent, and then they make and we learned quickly.
Conventional wisdom, right?
Conventional. Yeah. We learned quickly that's a way you can do it. It just is probably not the most profitable way to do it. Yeah. And so then we started
depending on which side of the table you're on.
Yeah. If you're an agent, it's absolutely the right way. All the agents just turn the podcast off right now.
Exactly. What not to do? Don't become a real estate agent.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we're saying.
I'm not saying that. It's a great career for the right people. But
absolutely.
But so then we started asking those questions, because we had other people who were in real estate that we were friends with who had a sizable portfolio, and we're looking at it going, well, there's no way these people were putting 25% down on 50 properties.
Right.
It's just not possible. How did you guys do this? And so we started learning from them and getting some mentorship and things like that. And then, we started sending out little mailers, and 4 months later we were buying our first duplex, and we did our first wholesale deal like a week later, and we did some rent to own on our old house out in Pulaski, and it was just like, whoa. Things escalated pretty quickly. Pretty soon we're flipping properties and wholesaling, and it kind of blew up after that first one. What's it?
Riding the wave.
Riding the wave, yeah.
So kind of give us a high-level overview of what you're up to today.
Yeah, so now we own a company called Fox Cities Home Buyers and Wisconsin Discount Properties. So it's kind of developed into two different companies.
Okay.
It started out as Ray Properties, and then we rebranded because we wanted to be more Google-friendly with home buyer for that thing. But basically, we wholesale properties to other investors, or we keep them for ourselves. And so wholesaling, a lot of people, it's kind of a niche in real estate. Basically, we market to find sellers who maybe have situations where listing with an agent wouldn't be in their best interest. And people are always like, there's people out there that wouldn't do that. And it's like trading a car, and they want that speed and convenience versus getting top dollar to them isn't important, or they don't want to fix the property up or things like that. So we help those folks. We put it under, put those properties under contract, and then we basically tell them we're going to connect you with a bunch of other investors, and we sell our contract to anybody, any other investor who's interested, and we keep a little fee in between what we get it for and what the investor is going to pay us. Yep. So the Wisconsin Discount Property side is more geared towards educating and helping real estate investors be more profitable, and then also supply them with inventory. Cool. And the Fox City Home Buyer side is more directed towards helping sellers sell their properties quickly and for cash, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned before, your wife Carrie is a significant part of the business, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And
she's a rock star.
She's a rock star. And how big is your team currently at Fox City?
We have one guy starting Monday at the time of this recording, so a couple days out. But we have 1, 2, he'll be 3, then Carrie and I, so 5 full-time, including Carrie and I, so 4 others, I'm sorry. We have a brand ambassador now, too, who's helping us with some of our other our coaching program we're developing and things like that.
So, but still pretty lean and agile.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which kind of strikes at your vision, over against what you didn't like about working, at UW, right?
Yeah.
And you're kind of able to not be that micromanager and really give you hiring the right folks to go and take initiative and drive.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So fitness, real estate, you played sports in high school, so you've had that competitive drive to you, maybe that sliver of entrepreneurship, and it's been expressed, you've had success.
Yep.
You're now in real estate. Why? What is the driving motivational, force within you that keeps you waking up and saying, I love doing this, or I want to be doing this? Why?
Yeah. I think initially, obviously, it was my initial goal when we got into real estate it was a path to get out of the W-2 workforce. Like, I was working nights and weekends for this company selling these marketing packages, and we had to do it when families were home. So it was nights, weekends, holidays, whenever families were home, I was working. And that lifestyle I knew just was not going to, as the kids, as with the kids, as they get a little bit older and start getting more into things, not being able to be there, it's like it's not worth the money to miss out on those moments,
Yeah.
So that was initially the goal of why we got into it. And then once we hit that number where we're like, okay, I can leave this W-2 job and we have a business that pays our expenses and we can put a little bit aside. As we continued to grow that, then it was like, okay, the next goal was, all right, let's build a little wall of financial security, which is why we got into holding, apartments and multifamily stuff. Let's get some cash flow and sort of build like a retirement plan.
Yeah.
Have our tenants pay down that debt and eventually have a nice little nest egg.
Yeah.
If and when we ever retire, which I doubt we will, but if we ever did retire, we could sell some of those and live pretty comfortably down the road. And now what's really been interesting is we've kind of hit that level, and we're still ironing out some of those numbers a little bit, but by the end of this year, we should be at that number of what we want. Now it's kind of shifted more towards like helping other people hit that.
Yeah.
We've been so blessed by other people who've helped us along the way, and now we're like, hey, we're in a position where we've learned a lot of stuff from a lot of people, and we spent a lot of money on education and mentors and masterminds and all these things, but now we have this like amazing vehicle and this system that we can just basically say, hey, if you want this same lifestyle, here's the action steps, here's what you need to do it, and provide those resources and that mentorship and that guidance to other people. And even within our own company now, it's been great. We've been able to help our employees start getting into real estate and own their own rentals and properties and things like that. So now it's more about like, hey, we have this cool vehicle that can give so many blessings to so many other people. Let's keep building this thing so that it self-sustains and can continue to keep giving out those blessings to other folks and our employees.
Yeah, it's moving from from success to significance, right?
Right.
Where you guys have taken, you built it yourself, and it's saying, hey, that was great.
Yeah.
But what's really satisfying is helping others become successful.
It's so cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Kyle. Well done on your decision today to be great. Those are my kiddos in the background. Hey, if you want more of this kind of content, find me on social media. We'll keep the conversation going. You can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, at StartWithWNTD. Again, at StartWithWNTD. We'll see you there. Yeah, so success to significance. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a common theme, which is really, really cool. And it actually strikes at the heart of the podcast here. Like, folks that are aspiring to be an entrepreneur, a leader, a public figure in some capacity, maybe they would identify, with you and say like, hey, I would love to be doing that, And I think it's awesome, even for you to come on the show here and be like, yeah, I want to talk about my failures. I want to help people be successful.
Absolutely.
And if that means telling them what not to do,
right,
done. Done
for sure.
Which is awesome. So, but obviously, life hasn't been a series of failures for you in one sense. You've done a lot right. So, as you're looking back on your career path and your journey, what are some things that stick out to you that you did right?
That's a great question, man. I think something that's kind of been a theme throughout my life is I've always been able to just take massive action.
Yeah.
And even if I'm I'd mess it up, like you said, there's failures and things like that. And, as I'm sure a lot of other guests that you have on this podcast probably attribute a lot of their success to their failures. Just being able to take massive action, comparatively speaking, as I get a little bit older and I kind of can reflect back and look back in my earlier years and see, oh wow, like a lot of these people just kind of floated through life and were just doing the bare minimum. And I was never satisfied with just the bare minimum. It was like just ingrained in me to just massive action. Like, I don't care if I don't need all the information, I'll figure it out. I'll mess it up. I'm very entrepreneurial. Like, Carrie's very much an integrator. She picks up all the pieces for me and puts it together and tells me what ideas I'm stupid and which ones are great, which is awesome to have that partner. But I think that's been just an overarching theme, is just always like, okay, I get an idea and then it's just like in my head and I can't get it out. And I'm like, all right, we're going to just go after it. And whatever happens, win, lose, or draw, we're going to learn a bunch of stuff from it. And
cards fall with it, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and part of that massive action you're not afraid of failing.
No.
Right? Because it can be a friend to you, not a foe, so it doesn't keep you from taking action.
For sure.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
What else?
I think marrying Carrie was a huge thing I did right. That was a God thing for sure, but taking action on asking her to be with me the rest of my life was a huge win in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
That was, she's such a blessing in so many ways in our business and supporting me and my crazy ideas all the time, and then jumping on board and helping me with them a lot of times has been just a huge blessing. But
Yeah, I mean, that was a what not to do from a previous episode was don't pick the wrong spouse.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is really important. I think Warren Buffett even talks about that, the importance of marrying the right person, and with the vision that that you're setting or that you're casting, and they're on board with that, and they can help to bring that about. That's really, really important. Otherwise, I don't know how long that marriage is going to last.
Yeah, or those dreams. That's the other thing I see a lot of times is people settle for the wrong spouse, and then they settle for the wrong life, and they're just bound to this life that they now are stuck into because they made some commitments. Yeah, and unfortunately, it crushes their future aspirations and dreams, and they just go work a normal job and are miserable for 40 years, retire, drive around the country for a year in an RV and die.
And spend their life justifying why they've settled.
Absolutely.
Why they've given up on their bigger goals, rather than keeping the dream and creating a plan,
right,
and then executing that plan. Yeah. It can in a sense can be that simple, but you have to know what you want. Right. And that's huge, and there's a lot of factors that go into executing that plan, and obviously having a great spouse that is on board and wants to help and carrying that out is huge.
Right,
so,
right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good. You wouldn't be here today if you weren't willing to talk about some mistakes you made, some failures you've had along the way.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned earlier, I mean, failure can really be friend or foe. It really is in a sense how we approach it, how we look at it. Yep. I think generally the theme for folks that have been successful in what they've set out to do, it's not that they've never had any failures, it's that they've viewed it as a friend.
Correct.
Kind of as a springboard, as a launching pad.
Totally.
Not afraid of it, but willing to, when it happens, it doesn't matter how bloody and bruised you get. Yeah. It's just that you keep on fighting. Yeah. Get back up, right? Yeah. And you learn from it, right? Yeah. So as you look back on your life, your career, what are, one or two, failures that stick out to you that were just really monumental in your life, really almost helping you to set the course and help you, propelling you to success? Yeah. What sticks out?
Well, the first thing that sticks out, we were kind of chatting before we started recording, and it brought up some failures. Yeah. That's a pattern over my life. Is I'm terrible at hiring the right people. I really am. And so I've learned now, thankfully, recently, like very recently, like in the last couple months, that it's not my thing. Yeah. I can't be the last guy to make the decision. Like, I got to outsource that to somebody else on my team and let somebody else who's a better judge of character. Probably, or maybe not even character, but a judge of what we actually need for that specific role that we're trying to hire for. Yep. And kind of, I'll be a part of it, but let somebody else be the main driver on it. So I remember when I had the gym, this was actually the downfall of the gym, why I closed the gym. I've always wanted this business that I could kind of remove myself from, right? Yeah. And like build it and then be out and just manage my team, right? Yep. Even remotely. And so when I had the gym, I tried to execute that vision, and again, I'm an entrepreneur, so details are not my friend, and so it was just like, oh, this guy, you're free? Come on in, man. We'll have you train. And I didn't do any background checks, really no interview. I mean, I did like a short interview with the guy, but he was willing to work for commission, and I didn't have the budget to pay him a salary. So I'm like, great. Whatever you bring in, you're going to get a cut. I'll pay you nicely. So I had two guys, actually, that did that. Found out one guy, later on, somebody else informed me this guy had gotten fired from Anytime Fitness for stealing. And can you imagine what he did to me, Kyle?
He didn't steal that.
Oh, just a little bit of money. Yeah, just a little bit of money. A couple $1,000 stole from me. Oh, man. What he would do is I wasn't there, so he would have the clients who had to come and renew for their membership. We'd have them renew every 8 weeks. Yeah. And he had them just bring cash. He's like, oh, just give me cash. I'll get it to Corey. Of course, never did. Yeah. Right. The other guy I hired was like a 40-some-year-old dude who was living with his dad. Should have known. Probably not.
He was jacked, right?
He was healthy. He was a runner. He was more endurance guy. Yeah. But he came in, and we had a very high female clientele there, about 90% female. Yeah. And what he was doing is he'd go home, then he'd like find these girls that he's training on Facebook and be sending them all kinds of dirty messages and stuff. And I'm like, you can't do that when you're training people. Or you really just shouldn't do that in general. But especially when you're training people, there's kind of that code of ethics that goes. So anyway, I let him go, and the guy that was stealing the money from me he partnered up with some other bad apples in town, and they were going to try to like start a rival gym of mine.
Yeah.
Kind of steal my concept and start it up, which I was like, whatever, you guys, good luck, right?
Yeah.
But they offered to buy me out of all my contracts with my clients, and I was like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that with you guys. Like, I don't trust you, and I don't want my clients like stuck with you guys. Like, I'd rather just like lose the money and let them walk away, right?
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is they had a spot downtown Green Bay that was all set to go apparently, and then for whatever reason the space fell apart, and then they came back, and at that point I'd already decided to shut the gym down because it was just those two people pretty much ruined it for me.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I got to do something else because this train is over.
It reflects on you.
Yeah. So they offered to buy all my equipment that I had in there, which was a couple $1,000 worth of stuff that I had put in over the years. And so I said, yeah, that's great. You guys can buy it. And then it was, well, can we do it in payments? And I'm like, at the point I was kind of exhausted, you know. I was just like, whatever, yeah, that's fine. I got one payment, no other payment. So I took him to court. We had to go to mediation a couple times because one dude wouldn't show up for the mediation. So then we'd have to reschedule it and go back. I'd never done anything like that before. I didn't know that you can just not show up and they'll just reschedule it for you. How nice. So then when I won the judgment or whatever, so they had to pay me the remaining amount. And I went to the gym to go check on my stuff, and the dude that was the guy stealing from me had taken 75% of the equipment and gone and pawned it off somewhere.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, all from hiring, all from making one decision, all from one mistake.
One bad hire.
So, I mean, you don't have to give us exact, but like ballpark. What do you think this whole thing actually cost you?
Probably like $6,000. Yeah. Just in material costs, not time.
Think about the time and
my lost business, basically, closing up shop. I mean,
the collateral damage.
Yeah. Luckily, my clients were great, and they understood what I was trying to do. You know, when I was bringing them in, I painted the picture for them, and I said, hey guys, this is the vision for my life. And I had long relationships with all these people, so the clients I'm still friends with a lot of them, and we're still great. But
which is awesome.
It was a very quick, I would say probably like a 4 to 5 month just nosedive on that business when I brought those people in.
So how would you phrase that then in a way to say, you know, what not to do? You'd say, don't do this. How would you phrase that?
Don't just hire the guy off the street that's free. Right? Like, you know, hire quality people. There's a great book out there called Top Grading. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, Top Grading. It's a short read, but it's really about how to hire the right people and how to continually keep top grading your business to elevate the people that you have in the business. And when you're starting out, I think the big struggle for me was I didn't have the capital to pay a salary at the time, or so I thought. But had I actually just put pen to paper and figured out something that would have worked, I'm sure this guy would have gone for it rather than the commission approach. And I could have then actually put an ad out to like hire like a real qualified person, and done background checks. That would have been helpful because he had a criminal record.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot.
Where do you live? You know.
Yeah. Do you live with your parents? Oh, you do? Then probably not gonna be a good fit if you're 45 and living with your parents. You know?
Totally. And maybe even something else is. It seems like in that progress, there's a few different times where you replace your trust in them.
Right.
Even when you had grounds maybe that you shouldn't have. Right. Would you say that was maybe
too much
another mistake?
Totally.
How would you phrase that?
Yeah, I think another mistake I made is letting people who I knew like in the first week or two probably weren't going to be a good fit. I've let them just kind of just hang around for way too long.
Try to give them a second chance.
Just give them a second chance, forgiveness. I think to a fault, I see the good in people all the time, and I see some bad parts, but I'm like, well, and I make excuses of how they can overcome those things, or how I can help, and I can, my ego kicks in, and I can train them to overcome that, and who they are is who they are. There's no changing them. That's who they are. So if they're not a good fit, it's cut them quick is what I've learned.
Yeah. And I mean, there's only so much due diligence you can do,
right.
In hiring. But there is due diligence you can do, and that should be exhaustive, which is good.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Jim Collins in his book Good to Great, talking about getting the right people on the bus in the right seats.
Yep.
And, that's a good lesson to learn.
Totally.
So what else? What's another failure, looking back on your life, that you've experienced?
I think number one, not finding the right mentors.
Okay.
And then when I did find the right mentors, it was still not listening to them, probably. Carrie's one of them. I mean, she's an in-house mentor for me in a way.
Yeah.
Or she's more of a good brake pedal, and I'm the gas in the relationship. But there's a couple deals that I've tried to buy in real estate, and she's, no, we're not buying that. And I'm like, and my ego again kicks in. I'm like, we'll make good money on this. She'll see at the end, right? Never works
She's
out.
like, I did the math.
Yeah, I did the math. I've calculated the risk. It's not in our box. Why are you doing this? Oh, well, you make excuses for it. So we have a property about 45 minutes west of Green Bay, which is not our demographic of where we try to buy.
Yeah.
And it's a trailer house, which is another red flag for not our buying criteria.
Yeah.
But again, ego kicked in, and I was like, no, this is a no-brainer. We'll make it work, and it ended up just being, and it's still a pain in our side. We still own it. We're trying to sell it right now. We had a tenant buyer in there who went to jail recently, and now we got the property back, and now we're trying to just liquidate it and get it going. So.
Oh man, so how would you phrase that? Would it be like, don't stop trying to find the right mentors, and when you do, don't not listen to them? Or
Yeah. There's too many negatives in that, but yeah.
How would you phrase that? Yeah.
I mean, well, I think it goes back to like, I'm not good at hiring people. So like when I'm interviewing a potential mentor, I think a mistake that I made was like, I was so hungry to get into real estate that I was just like, I'll do whatever. You know what I mean? And like, I found one mentor, a local guy in town, who I didn't know if this guy had ever done a deal that I was trying to do, like a wholesale deal, you know? And if he did he even have a system for it? Or is it just like he's like me?
Like a one-off.
And just flying by the seat of his pants, like no step-by-step thing. I didn't even know anything about the program. I gave the dude $10,000. I'm like, here you go. Let's go. What do we got to do, right? Like no due diligence, no asking around, no talking to references, no asking other students their experience with the program or whatever he was coaching. It got us started in real estate, so I mean, I'm not. I mean, it was, again, another failure that turned into a positive. But it helped me understand, okay, if I'm going to find a mentor, I need to find the person who aligns with my goals, who aligns with my character, my morals, my values, and is where I want to be, right? And then go to that person and learn from them.
Yeah, maybe that'd be a good way to say it is something like, don't take advice from someone you wouldn't readily trade places with.
Yes. Oh, that's a great way to say that.
Yeah, because it's like, there's a lot of people that are wanting to give advice.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that they're the right people for you.
Right.
And it's kind of like, I heard the other day something along the lines of like, the more closed-minded someone is, the more open-mouthed they are. And it's sometimes like everyone's just wanting to give advice. And it's kind of like, that's great. What's the justification, the foundation for this advice in your own life?
Yeah. And
maybe there is, but would I readily trade places with?
Right.
You know, like, so it's kind of like, I think that can be, and it doesn't mean it's an exhaustive filter, but it could be a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Don't take advice from someone that you're not willing to trade places.
That's great advice. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Great way to say that.
Any other failures that come to mind that you want to share? Into?
I mean, I think just sometimes not following my gut, you know. It kind of goes along with the same lines of the hiring stuff. Like, it's just been, you know, I've had experiences in the past where I've had a feeling that I should do something or shouldn't do something, and I sit on that, or I suppress that feeling, and I go with maybe the pressure of like what I think other people want me to do. Even friends, I feel like there's a pressure out there sometimes, like for your friend network, because you've had, again, that seniority with them or that longevity with them as a friend, that I felt like I've got to hang around them so much. Even family, like hanging around with some family that is, you know, not going to be productive long term. I can still hang out with them and get them in a dose, but like trying to feel like I have to be around those people too much, and then it affects the soul, it affects my spirit. Yeah, very toxic.
And it can be tough because there's the emotional ties there, but what's the saying? You're the average of the five people that you hang around the most, and if that's all people that are really toxic, that have settled in their lives, that have just kind of given up on themselves.
Yeah.
what do you think is going to happen?
Right. And it's that nostalgia sometimes of like, well, remember back in high school when we did whatever, and it's like, and now you're looking at their life and you're like, again, great advice you had. Would I trade places with those people?
Yeah.
And like, if not, I should be like trying to hang out with people who I would trade places with and get in those circles.
Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't mean you can't have a friendship or an acquaintance.
Correct.
But like, you might just discount their advice. It doesn't matter if they're your best friend, your best man, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't readily trade places with them, then just take their advice with a grain of salt, Or, and like you said, go find someone that you would.
Yeah. And limit the time with them too, because I think that's something else that you can kind of get stuck, especially with family. Like you can kind of feel like that obligation, like, well, I have to be around them a lot. And one of the best things we started to do over the last couple of years as we started to get more into real estate is just kind of tune a lot of those people out. Yeah. And if we have to be around them, it's very like surface level or just casual, quaint, you know what I mean? It's polite, that type of thing. And then just when we go home, it's going home, and then we're trying to get around the right people more.
Yeah. You heard it here, folks. Cut out your friends and family.
Yeah, become a loner, a drifter. Yeah.
No, that's obviously not what you're saying, but going back, I think in that relations, how you might phrase it is, don't ignore your gut. It's there for a reason. I think Simon Sinek talks about this in his book, Start With Why, how people are inspired. It's about the limbic brain, things that it doesn't quantify right or wrong in a sense, but it's impressed.
Yep.
And you can't always rationalize why you think or feel a certain way.
Right.
But it shouldn't just be discounted or ignored.
Right.
And so when it comes to either hiring the right people or who you're spending time with, all that kind of stuff, there are some things it's like, maybe this person checks out here, and here, but there's something I can't quite put my finger on that I just... and you're saying don't ignore that.
Yeah, don't ignore that. Yeah. Even in some recent business transactions and relationships that we have, there's some individuals that you're right. There's like 3/4 of them that you're like, okay, they're doing good stuff, but then there's like the one thing that their integrity is sometimes like they waver on their integrity a little bit, and you kind of like you kind of see that. Yeah. And now I think because of some of the previous hires, again, I'm very forgiving, so I'll chalk up the first one to it was a mistake, but then it happens a second time. Now it's very much like, okay, I can't do business with this person because then it reflects on me again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so moving from right and wrong, helping someone to go from success to significance, or your success and you moving from success to significance, helping someone else out. As you look back, what would you do differently, assuming that you'd want to replay if given to you in some senses to avoid some of the same mistakes?
Yeah.
And another way to think about that, I guess, is you're sitting across from someone who's just starting out their journey, and they say, hey, Corey, like, I like the way you think, love it. I could really see myself doing something kind of like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get started?
Yeah.
And what counsel or advice would you give them to help them avoid some of the same failures or mistakes that you experienced?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Assuming that you don't want them to go through them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You will suffer.
Yes. No, you have to suffer first, and then I'll come back to me.
You have to earn your stripes.
Yeah, earn your stripes. Yeah. I think about that a lot because I speak at some high schools sometimes to like their business classes and everything, and
we need more of that.
Yeah. I know that the teachers that are bringing me in, because I'm very non-traditional. One, I probably went to college because, I mean, it was a great experience. Like, I learned how to take care of myself, ramen noodles and whatever. But I survived those 4 years, and I had a lot of fun. But I mean, the degree was basically a waste of money. 4-year degree. I would have taken that same money and spent it in specialized training.
Yeah.
And for me, in real estate, I always wanted to be in real estate, but I always loved like the big numbers of real estate. Being a sales guy, I'm like, big numbers, you can make a lot of money, you can be successful easier. So again, going back to my gut, like I was like, well, I need to go to college because that's what society tells me I should do. And my parents had never went to college, and I want to make my parents proud because I'll be the only one. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. I'll be the only one to go to college and get the degree. So there was kind of that competitive part, like I'm going to go and like I'm going to get that degree. But looking back, I would have just taken that same money and stuck it into specialized training or specialized, mentorship or whatever the case is for whatever I wanted to go into. And for me, it would have been real estate, but for somebody who had maybe different aspirations, obviously if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or something, you got to go to college. It's no other way. But
what you're saying is don't ignore the opportunity cost of college, or try to figure that out.
Yeah.
Consider the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Where is this going to get you? Why?
Right.
And if that's your goal and you've got a plan to make sure that you get there, then great.
Right.
But what you're saying is, are you in the health and fitness industry today?
Not at all.
And look at your degree in, fitness or exercise management.
Yeah.
And it's like, now what? And you're saying I could have taken that $10, $20, $30, $40,000, $100,000, $200,000
right.
some people are spending on college today.
Yeah.
And saying, had I invested that in something else,
Correct.
what could have my ROI been?
Absolutely.
Like $200,000 could get you maybe $800 in real estate, right? Whatever the math is.
Absolutely.
And it could really change the course of your life.
Absolutely.
And so you're saying, consider the quality of the education that you're getting. Invest in education.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean the college paradigm.
Correct. I think there's going to be a huge shift in the next 5 to 10 years of less and less people going to college.
Yeah.
More people doing this specialized type of thing. But I think it's hard when you're 18. Do you really know what the hell you want to even do?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
and that goes back to that idea of you have to know what you want. I think most people don't know. I spent so much of my life not knowing what I wanted.
Yeah.
Right? And in that sense, I think I wasted a lot of time or years.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also proved valuable, right? It was a failure that was proved valuable to prove to be a friend. And saying that, I think a lot of people don't know what they want.
Absolutely.
And that's why they kind of just wander in life and they fall into the tracks that are already kind of set for them by society. Go to college, get a good job, and shut your mouth.
Drive me crazy.
And that can be a fine path for some folks, but it doesn't mean it has to be the only path.
Right. And there's so much pressure because I feel like our parents of our age group grew up from their parents who grew up in the Depression or whatever, and they didn't have those opportunities. So then it was like, you guys need to go to college. And then if they didn't go to college and they got stuck in the mill or got stuck in the industrial workforce like their parents got stuck into, then they really put a lot of pressure like on our generation to be like, we want you to be better than us. Like, don't live this life that we're living. You can do so much better. And the way to do that, because our parents told us, was to go to college. So go to college. We want you to get a degree. And then when you get out, you're like, all right, now what the hell do I do? And then like for me, I went and got my dream job, quote unquote. And I was like, this is what I went to school for 4 years to do. And I'm in it 2 months and I hate it.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was like a big wake up call for me. Like, crap, I just wasted 4 years and a lot of money to realize in 2 months that I hated this career. So I think there's something that's like broken with our system. I think if somebody would spend a couple of years out trying different workforces, going and just interning for free for a couple of years, think of the money you're not spending and you're getting all that valuable, or taking a gap year, going and really getting like concrete on who you are, so that you can be a better version of yourself when you do go out into the workforce. That's what I would tell somebody maybe say like senior in high school or somebody maybe who's at a point where they are at a turning point ready to make a different change. Maybe test out a couple different things and just go work on the side, with somebody who's already in that field for free and just put that effort in, and learn from them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, so you're still listening, which means you like it? I think so. If you do, share this with somebody else who you think would not only like it, but be helped by it, and join us in our mission to make the world be great. Well, the world's falling apart here at Copper State, which is great. So, but I hope you guys feel like you're here having coffee, having frou-frou lattes with us, and learning, which is awesome. Learning from our mistakes, which is great. So. Really good stuff, man, that you shared. So tell me this. So we are all, in a sense, heavily, inescapably influenced by our environments. Yeah. And people play a huge part of that role. Mm-hmm. So as you look back on your life and your formation, and who you are today, probably several people. Yep. Maybe some directly, through relationships, maybe some indirectly through books or lectures or whatever that is. Yeah. But who's someone that comes to mind as one of the most impactful people in your formation? Yeah. I think early on, one of my 7th grade teachers, I can specifically remember 6th grade, I was labeled by my teachers in 6th grade as this rebel, outcast, troublemaker type kid, and I got detention and all this other stuff, and it was like they were just looking for reasons to, put me down by the principal's office and all that stuff. And I was like, deep down, I'm like, I think I'm a good kid. Like, I really felt, an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like a good kid. I know I talk a lot in class, and I'd like to compete and be physical with people and wrestle around and all that stuff, but I think I'm a good-natured kid. And so going into 7th grade, now I heard the stories after, but all the 7th grade teachers were like, oh, man, I don't want that kid in my class. I see him out by the principal. They always would put me out in the hall by the principal's office during lunch, and I'd have to sit there. And my 7th grade homeschool teacher, Miss Barsh, she was awesome. And we called her Mom by the end of the year. Like, she was Mom, and I was, and she just helped really breathe a lot of belief into me and, help me realize, like, I am who I think I am, and she can see it. And it was great to have somebody else say, hey, you're not who they labeled you. You are a really good kid, and you are special, and you do have a lot of great things, going for you. So, and that shaped a lot of how I then went on to 8th grade and then through high school and interacted with a lot of my teachers and stuff like that. So she was a huge influence.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how the power of words, just to breathe life, to kill or destroy, or to give life.
So true.
And confidence and otherwise we can spend so much of our lives believing a certain narrative about ourselves or a certain story about ourselves because of what everyone else is telling us. Until someone else comes along and offers a different story.
Right.
And it's like, choose your own adventure. Which one do you want? Do you want to be this person or do you want to be this person?
Yeah.
Because I want to be this person.
Yeah.
And man, what a gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of advice floating around these days. I think we mentioned earlier, I heard it said recently something like, those who are the most closed-minded or the most open-mouthed, and
That's great.
It's so true. So imagine that you're cranking away at Copper State, doing some work, and you hear, Joe Schmo over at table 7, tell his buddy, hey, you should do this, and it's just the worst advice you've ever heard. Makes you cringe.
Yeah.
You start, hairs on the back of your neck start standing up, and you want to get over them and be like, don't do it.
Yeah.
What's some of the worst advice that you hear floating around these days, or maybe that you've been given over the course of your life?
Both. And I have a couple, but I'll keep it to real estate.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to get to this because I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm like, squirrel, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But whenever I hear somebody talk about, well, real estate's really an art, it's not a science. You have to be able to do these creative things, and you have to be able to do all these different crazy types of transactions. And I can see, for the beginner, and I was there, I thought that was the only way to do real estate, is no two deals are ever going to be the same. You have to be able to know all of these crazy little legal documents and how to do all this weird legal stuff, and there's a lot of fear of I don't want to go to jail, I just want to make money, and I want to do it ethically, but I don't know all of these things.
Yeah.
And so every time I hear somebody say, well, yeah, you could do it this way or this way or this way or this way or this way, I'm like, that is such bad advice, because for somebody who's brand spanking new, they just need one system to follow and just get on one path. Gary Keller, the one thing, just focus on one thing until you got that thing down. Then you can go start adding in some other creative stuff once you have a little bit. But every time I hear that, and they're preaching to brand new people about doing this creative, artsy stuff with real estate, and I'm like, they're going to get in so much trouble if they don't do it right. They're going to mess up their lives, and they're going to be out of real estate in no time because, one, it's too complicated for the average person to figure out when they're first getting started. Two, you can get in a legal mess, and you can really mess up a seller's situation too, and unintentionally. But so I cringe every time I hear that.
Yeah,
it drives me crazy.
unintended consequences, right?
Right.
Yeah. Real estate is an art. The worst advice ever.
Yes, there is a science to it, and if you find the science, you can do it pretty easily and systematically.
Awesome. So last but not least, it is rush hour. Every major city in the world. Billions of people are probably listening to my podcast right now, right?
Of course,
right?
Yes.
What else would you listen to?
Right, of course.
And they look up and they see a billboard. It's Corey Rayment's billboard.
Yeah.
What message do they see?
It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. If it's possible in the world, it's possible for me. It's just a question of how. And it's going to be like a big skyscraper or something on it, because when I first heard that quote and then they explained it a little bit, I'm like, it's so true. Everything in this world is already created, so if somebody already did it, you can do it too. Basically, it's just a matter of figuring out the systems or how they did it, and then just replicating that.
That's good.
And I think you mentioned earlier something we were talking about, maybe off air, was not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And that kind of is along the line. Somebody's already doing what you want to do. Yeah. You just got to go figure out how they did it and then do it.
And the fact that they did it.
Right.
That alone, it's why do we assume that we couldn't do it? They're just a one-off.
Yeah.
They did it.
They already did
it.
We? Yeah. If it's possible for them, it's possible for you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Corey, this has been such a blast. So much good stuff here. I'm really excited to share your story with the world. I think a lot of people are going to be helped.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love the podcast. I love what you're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So Corey's one of those guys you could just talk to for hours. He's got a fire in his eyes, a fire in his belly, and just a total go-getter, and crushing it in the real estate side of things. Really exciting to talk to. And not able to join us today was his wife, Carrie, who he had mentioned. And she's such an integral part in the business, in his success too, personally and professionally. And she is raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, which is super exciting in and of itself. But so let's recap. Let's rewind here. And what did Corey tell us not to do? Well, first he said, don't hire free people. Don't hire free people. In another way that we've probably heard this in another capacity in life is you get what you pay for, right? You get what you pay for, right? And if you pay for free, you get free. You get free, right? And that's not the kind of free that you want, right? So don't hire free people. Look for quality. Be willing to pay a fair price for that. Sometimes people think, Warren Buffett buys all these discounted, et cetera, and he did start out initially buying cigar butt companies, but he moved rather quickly to looking for really, really good companies and wanting to get them at a fair price. And I think that's a good principle in all of life, is we shouldn't just try to go for the cheapest thing or the biggest discounted thing. We should look for really good quality, really good value, and be willing to pay a good price for it. So don't hire free people. Got it? All right, next. Don't take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. And this is hard. We mentioned in the episode, the folks that are the most closed-minded are the most open-mouthed. And how true is that? And how many folks are just so readily willing to give an opinion? And the question is, with everyone who's lining up to tell you what you should do, ask yourself, who would you want to trade places with? And then listen to those people first and foremost. You can't listen to everybody, right? So narrow down your focus, and don't take advice from someone that you wouldn't want to trade places with, ultimately. And last but not least, don't ignore your gut. Don't ignore your gut. Now, this isn't permission or license just to go and react and live life based on your emotions, because that's just a recipe for failure in and of itself, and certainly not what Corey was getting at. But again, after you've done your due diligence, there's sometimes things that you can't quite put your finger on, but you just sense. And there's that sense of intuition, what we would want to call your gut, and you got to learn to trust it, right? It doesn't mean it's going to come out and be 100% correct all the time, but it's certainly a feature, not a bug, and you need to learn to trust it. So don't ignore your gut. Well, if you're looking to get in contact with Corey, we'll have his contact information in the show notes as usual. We're also going to have his top 3 recommended books. So what is Corey reading? If you are someone who says, hey, I want to get into real estate investing, or I want to think more like him, a great place to start is by asking what he reads, who influences him. And we'll have that in the show notes. You can add those to your book list and roll from there. I want to say thank you for listening. And I remind you that this is about you, right? This isn't so much about Corey. This isn't about Kyle. This is about you. And it's amazing how many folks are willing to, who have been in the trenches, who have had success, and they're willing to sit down with me, of all people, lean into their failures so I can pass them on to you, so you can be equipped for success. That is amazing. So if you are at a place in life where you don't have that, I really hope that this podcast becomes a source of refuge or just great help for you, that these various folks in their various respective industries and careers and their successes are able to help you go further, faster than they could. So if you've been helped by this, then I'm going to challenge you, go help somebody else. You got to know someone else that is striving to be successful, who might not have that mentor, that coach, that parent, that person in their life that is helping to drive them and push them to be, in a sense, the greatest version of themselves, or to really, really max out their capacity. Maybe this podcast could be helpful to them like it's been helpful to you. So share it. One way you can do that is to give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to. That can help to get the word out and be much appreciated. Another way you can support us is through Patreon. So if you like us and you want to put your money where your mouth is, that's a great way. It'll help us to continue to up the ante on quality and content and everything like that, so we can better serve you guys, better equip you for success. And if there is someone that you want on this podcast, you want to hear an interview with them, shoot me a note, tag them, have them reach out to me. Let's go. I mean, a few people on my bucket list. Warren Buffett, let's get him on here, right? Like Uncle G, Grant Cardone. I know you're listening to this. Let's get him on this podcast. He would have so much good to say. And it could be anyone in between. And there's 7 billion people in this world. Let me repeat that. 7 billion people. Everyone has an amazing story, and everyone has something that they can at least share. If you don't know what to do, start with what not to do. Repeat it after me. Start with what not to do. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go, be great, and we'll see you next time.